What's up guys, welcome to the first full-length archaeology news update. I've been doing speed runs of these on my social media for a little while now, but there's always so much more than can be fit into those short-form videos, and it's well overdue that I started making these longer. If you're listening to this on the podcast, please accept my sincere apologies for the length of time between uploads. I just have had a whole lot of stuff going on in real life. I moved house, my internet didn't work for like 2 months, I went to Europe for 2 months, it's just been a lot. As always, if you do enjoy the content, please consider hitting the sub button to the channel, and you can also follow me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok for more regular content where I post pretty much daily. I also have a gaming YouTube channel which is just called Liminality Gaming, and I stream on Twitch during the week pretty much every day as well, so if you're into that stuff, check that out in the description. Alright, lots to go through, so let's get stuck into it. Okay, first up we have what some people are referring to as a vampire child in Poland. In a recent archaeological excavation in the village of Pień in northern Poland, scientists have uncovered a 400-year-old burial site dating back to the 17th century. The remains belong to a child who was aged 5 to 7 years old at the time of their death, and they were interred in a prone position with an attached padlock on one foot. Now this isn't a common burial practice, and it's prompted the researchers to postulate that the padlock served as a measure to inhibit the deceased person from re-emerging from the afterlife. Dariusz Poliński, who is an archaeologist from Nicholas Copernicus University in Poland, said that the presence of the padlock suggests a prevalent fear surrounding this child post-mortem. This area has actually been the focus of attention for several years now, and it seems to have been a resting place for individuals termed abandoned souls, and for those who lacked the financial means for interment within church grounds. The recent uncovering of a child's grave mirrors a discovery from the previous year of a female burial, colloquially referred to as the vampire woman, which was characterized by a padlock on her foot and a sickle positioned over her neck. In reflecting on the significance of these discoveries, Poliński noted, and I quote, "This site is illuminating in terms of shedding light on the societal norms and practices around those deemed different or outsiders in the community," end quote. Such graves are invaluable, presenting an avenue to delve deeper into historical societal dynamics and the treatment of those who deviated from the perceived norm. Though contemporary reports occasionally employ the term vampire to label these burials, it's imperative to clarify that our present-day understanding of vampires didn't really exist in the 17th century, and that's not really what was going on here. Nevertheless, the recurrent use of padlocks in these graves does indicate that there was a fear of the deceased returning to the world of the living. Next up, we have this trending article on Live Science which asks the question, did the ancient Egyptians really marry their siblings and children? The short answer to this question is that yes, they did, but the reason for this is a little more complicated. One of the most common reasons was that the Egyptian gods Osiris and Isis were both husband and wife and brother and sister, which gave the practice a religious motivation. This was done in order to not only emulate the gods, but to also give credit to the image of the pharaoh as a living god on earth. However, this was largely restricted to the royal families, but in the later stages of Egyptian civilization, beginning with Roman rule, it appears to have become far more common amongst non-royal people. A lecturer in Egyptology at the University of Birmingham named Lier Olabaria told Live Science that it would also be very difficult to detect brother-sister marriage after the start of the New Kingdom in 1550 BCE, because prior to this the term "snt" was used exclusively to mean sister, but in the New Kingdom it began being used to mean wife and lover. As to why there was a sudden increase in sibling marriages during the Roman period of Egyptian history, nobody really knows, and this has been a subject of debate for quite a long time. Sabine Horbner, who is a professor of ancient civilizations at the University of Basel in Switzerland, argues that most of the brother-sister marriages occurred because the man was adopted into the wife's family just before the marriage. This meant that the husband was able to move into the wife's home rather than the daughter leaving, which would have made the elderly lives of her parents financially difficult. Horbner draws on other contemporary societies such as ancient Greece, who also had this practice, as proof of its concept. However, Brent Shaw, who is a professor emeritus of classics at Princeton University, told Live Science that, and I quote, "The wording of Egyptian marriage contracts, son and daughter of the same mother and father specifically, pretty well rule out adoption in all of those cases," end quote. But the truth is, we just don't know why this sudden increase in incestuous marriages occurred during the Roman period in Egypt, and we don't really know exactly why they did it beforehand. Next up, we have the discovery of a blood-red amphitheater at Armageddon. In Israel's Jezreel Valley, archaeologists have unearthed a distinctive blood-red combat arena at a Roman military base from the 2nd century called Legio. Situated near Armageddon, and yes, the prophesized battleground for the apocalyptic conflict in Christian scripture Armageddon, the Legio military establishment spans roughly 1,600 by 1,300 feet or 500 by 400 meters, and once housed approximately 5,000 soldiers. The remnants of this old Roman stronghold lie concealed beneath farmlands for 1800 years, but since 2010, extensive excavations have revealed its boundaries, main headquarters or Principia, and associated structures. Beyond the encampment walls, the use of advanced ground-penetrating radar or GPR technology has aided in unearthing an adjacent cemetery and amphitheater, as well as features like roads, courtyards, and other architectural structures. During the 2023 expedition, the team, under the guidance of geoscientist Eileen Ernenwein from East Tennessee State University, advanced their GPR survey techniques by towing a larger system behind a vehicle, enabling them to cover much more ground than previous years. Nevertheless, approximately half of Legio still awaits GPR surveying and subsequent archaeological excavation. However, this year's dig did uncover an army-specific amphitheater, which is distinct from those designed for public entertainment, and according to the excavation's co-director Matthew Adams, is something that's never before been found in this area. Intriguingly, the site revealed two concentric walls, which suggests that the structure underwent expansion at some point, and the entrance of the amphitheater bears signs of potential cultic rituals. An abundance of lamps were discovered, which hints at a possible connection to the cult of Nemesis, according to the team, which is the deity symbolizing retribution and justice. The amphitheater's expansion is particularly significant, according to Heinz-Jürgen Best, who is a Greek and Roman architectural scholar from the German Archaeological Institute. He postulated that the extension underscores the enduring importance of a meticulously trained military force in Legio, which likely suggests that the region underwent prolonged military turbulence. Adjacent to the Principia, outside the base's boundary, is also a legionary cemetery. This site is also of particular interest to researchers who seek to shed light on the legion's ethnic composition, which is a topic of heavy research among Roman scholars. Adams posed pressing questions, saying, and I quote, "Did the legion mainly comprise locals, or did it also include individuals from distant corners of the empire?" Next up is the oldest village ever found in Europe. Archaeologists working in the Balkans have uncovered remnants of a stilted village believed to be around 8,000 years old, which makes it Europe's earliest identified settlement. Located on the boundary between Albania and North Macedonia, the ancient lake where this discovery was made is dotted with hundreds of wooden pillars, which experts contend once supported the village's foundations. Originating approximately at the same time as Europe's first farmers, who are thought to have migrated from Anatolia or modern-day Turkey roughly 8,000 years ago, this village presents an intriguing window into early European habitation. While the team is yet to ascertain the full expanse of this ancient settlement, the presence of an underwater defensive barrier constructed from tens of thousands of wooden spikes hints at a once sprawling community. Interestingly, the team also found similar stilted dwellings built over the water at another site on the eastern shore of the same lake. However, this second site appears to have been built about 300 years later. The allure of lakes for ancient civilizations can be attributed to the essential resources they provide, such as water and abundant vegetation. However, the precise motivations behind why these people constructed their homes elevated on stilts or piles over the lake or wetland remains a mystery. Interestingly, this architectural choice can be found from the Balkans to the Baltic, which hints at a widespread cultural or practical rationale yet to be fully understood. Lead archaeologist Albert Hafner from the University of Bern in Switzerland has been examining lakes in the Balkans in search of the settlers who brought farming to Europe from Mesopotamia for years. He says that many of the large lakes in the Balkans have clear evidence of this early migration from Anatolia, and has documented more than half a dozen of them himself, but none quite as old as this new find. The question remains, however, what exactly were these people, with their backs to the water and the surrounding land defended by thousands of wooden stakes, hiding from? Who or what exactly were they afraid of? Next up, we have a shell dragon discovered in Mongolia. At the Kaita Opo archaeological site in the Songshan district of Chefeng, archaeologists have uncovered a shell dragon measuring 20 centimeters in length. The artifact, composed of multiple muscle shells arranged to represent a dragon's head, body, and tail, offers one of the earliest representations of dragon amongst the Hongshan culture. The Hongshan culture was a Neolithic culture that thrived between approximately 4,700 and 2,900 BCE in the region that is now northeastern China and Inner Mongolia. The Hongshan culture is particularly famous for its intricate jade sculptures, which include the pig dragons, or Zulong, and embryo dragons, Tailong, which are some of the earliest examples of jade working in China. Archaeological excavations have unearthed evidence of well-developed communities, including dwellings, pottery, tools, and ornaments, as well as large temple complexes, some of which contain circular platforms and altars, which point to ritualistic and potentially astronomical functions. While its linguistic and ethnic ties to the later Chinese cultures remains a subject of scholarly debate, the Hongshan Hongshan culture is believed by most scholars to have significantly influenced the trajectory of early Chinese civilization. In a statement to the Global Times, Song Jinshan, the head of the Inner Mongolia Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology, emphasized the significance of this new discovery, noting, and I quote, "This crucial discovery bridges a knowledge gap concerning the dragon motif's representation in the early phases of the Hongshan culture." End quote. Next up, we have DNA extracted from an ancient Assyrian clay tablet. In a pioneering endeavor, researchers from the University of Oxford have successfully extracted ancient DNA from a clay brick that is approximately 2,900 years old, tracing its origins back to the historical city of Nimrud. Situated in the Nineveh Governorate of Iraq, Nimrud sprawled across 890 acres, and after enduring a period of decay during the tumultuous Bronze Age collapse, which spanned from the mid-11th to mid-10th centuries BCE, ascended to prominence as the heart of the Neo-Assyrian Empire under the guidance of Ashurnasirpal II. This DNA extraction signifies not only a technical achievement, but also opens up an intriguing avenue to delve deeper into the history and understanding of the people and environment of this ancient city. This meticulous DNA examination unveiled a spectrum of 34 distinct taxonomic plant groups. Of these plant groups, the cabbage and heather families featured most predominantly in the sequenced DNA. Additionally, traces of birch, laurels, umbellifers, and cultivated grasses were identified in the sample. The collaborative efforts of an interdisciplinary team composed of Assyriologists, archaeologists, biologists, and geneticists, and has enabled the correlation of these genetic findings from the tablet with both present-day botanical data from Iraq and ancient Assyrian plant illustrations. Likely composed from mud sourced from the nearby Tigris River, the brick's makeup was enhanced with additives such as chaff, straw, or animal dung. Following the molding process, it was meticulously engraved with cuneiform inscriptions and left under the sun to dry. This choice to forego firing and let the brick dry naturally proved serendipitous, as it ensured the preservation of the genetic treasures encapsulated within that would have otherwise been destroyed forever. Dr. Trolls Arbol of the University of Oxford elaborated on the significance of this discovery, saying, and I quote, "Owing to the inscription on the brick, we can pinpoint the clay's origin to a specific time frame in a distinct region. Effectively, this brick becomes a biodiversity time capsule, offering an unparalleled glimpse into a single site and its environs during the ancient Assyrian era. It presents us with a rare window into the world of the ancient Assyrians." Next up, we have gold coins and cremated children, which sounds like a really good name for a metal song. In a recent archaeological excavation near the ancient city of Carthage, researchers unearthed 5 rare gold coins that are around 2,300 years old, along with urns containing the cremated remains of animals, infants, and premature babies. This discovery took place close to the ruins of the Temple of Tafat el-Boni, which is a historic monument located on a hill near present-day Tunis. In antiquity, this temple was a significant countryside monument dedicated to the deities Baal Harmon, who was the city's chief god of weather, and Tanit, the mother goddess of fertility and the moon. Founded by the Phoenicians in the 9th century BCE, Carthage grew to be an influential city-state. However, Carthage's rising power led to an intense rivalry with the Roman Republic, culminating in the drawn-out Punic Wars from 264 BCE to 146 BCE. Ultimately, these conflicts concluded with the Roman destruction of Carthage, who built a new Roman Carthage directly over the remnants of the former city. The archaeologists who made the find believe that the coins were offerings by affluent Carthaginians to the deities. However, the revelation of infant remains alongside these suggests that they were also offerings too. Over the last 100 years, excavations at this site have yielded numerous tombstones and urns filled with the remains of children, most of them newborns and toddlers. Professor Josephine Crawley Quinn at the University of Oxford said, and I quote, "The volume of archaeological, literary, and documentary evidence pointing towards child sacrifice is significant," unquote. She suggested the possibility that such practices, if true, might have been rooted in profound religious devotion or perhaps an ancient belief that the potential communal benefits of such a sacrifice surpass the intrinsic value of a child's life. Passages in the Christian Bible and tales from Greek and Roman antiquity do paint vivid scenes of child sacrifice to the Carthaginian deity Baal Harmon, but more recent archaeological evidence suggests a slightly more nuanced understanding. Detailed analysis of certain remains from suspected sacrificial sites in Carthage hint that these might have been regular burial grounds for fetuses and babies. This view has driven some scholars to postulate that the urns and tombstones tombs found in Carthage over the last century might actually represent the final resting places of children who succumbed to natural causes rather than sacrificial victims. However, a curveball in this bait is the fact that most of these remains are cremated. Patricia Smith, a biological anthropologist and professor emeritus at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, points out a pretty compelling argument to the natural death theory. She says that given Carthage's scarcity of wood, which is a resource they heavily depended on for shipbuilding, textiles, and tools, it seems implausible that the Carthaginians would allocate such a vital commodity for cremating infants who had died naturally. As seafarers and traders, conserving wood would have been of paramount importance to the Carthaginians, and this just seems very unlikely. Smith posits that the act of using wood for cremation, especially in a society facing wood scarcity, might actually bolster the argument for sacrificial rituals. The decision to expend such a precious resource might have been dictated by the profound religious significance of the act, rather than a mere burial custom. That is, it doesn't make sense to burn up all the wood for cremations unless there was a significant religious aspect to the ceremony, which may explain the ritual sacrifices. Speaking of sacrifices, archaeologists from Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History have unearthed evidence pointing towards ritual beheadings at the ancient Maya city of Moral-Reforma. Located in the state of Tabasco, Moral-Reforma stands as a testament to the grandeur of the classic Maya period. With its roots tracing back to around 300 CE, this site bloomed as a pivotal trading hub along the San Pedro Martir River. At its zenith between 622 and 756 CE, Moral-Reforma sprawled across 215 acres. It boasted majestic palaces, vibrant plazas, and an array of pyramid complexes echoing the city's significance during the classical Maya era. While excavating Structure 18, a pyramidal edifice to the south of the central temple complex, archaeologists stumbled upon 13 burials strategically positioned in front of the monument's stairwell. A particularly compelling detail for beheading was found in one of the skulls, which bore horizontal cut marks at the craniocervical junction, which is an area comprising the occipital bone, or the base of the skull, and the initial two bones of the upper spine. Miriam Angelica Camacho Martinez, a seasoned physical anthropologist associated with the project, offered her insights into this chilling discovery. Quote, "The precision of a sharp object was unmistakably used to extract the skull. This is corroborated by the cervicals and mandible, which still maintained their anatomical relationship. However, discerning whether this injury was inflicted pre or post-mortem remains a challenge." End quote. Many of the excavated skulls also exhibited something called tabular oblique deformation. This is a deliberate cranial alteration indicative of higher social standing in many ancient cultures, including the Maya. This modification, often achieved by binding the head between two flat boards during infancy, reflects not only the cultural aesthetics of the period, but also the socio-political nuances of Mayan society. The layered depth and unique style of the burials also hints at a broader purpose. Researchers associated with the find posit that these burial patterns were likely offerings meant for a Maya underworld deity. Such rituals might have been conducted to consecrate and sanctify the very temple the people were buried beneath, which is a vital practice to ensure divine favor and protection. Okay, the last news discovery of the week is a bit of a dark one. It is the discovery of the oldest slavery plantation ever found. Recent archaeological investigations suggest that the sinister roots of plantation slavery may trace back to a diminutive island off the West African coast called São Tomé. Located near the equator, this island played a pivotal role in the early years of the sugar trade, revealing a haunting facet of our global history. Settled by the Portuguese in the late 15th century, the island presented itself as a promising haven for agriculture with its abundant fresh water, dense woodlands, and fertile terrain ideal for sugarcane cultivation. Envisioning a bustling agrarian society, the Portuguese monarchy embarked on a campaign to populate the island. However, despite its natural allure, the pervasive threat of malaria rendered the island a perilous destination, and as a result, the early population was mostly made up of forced inhabitants, including convicts, Jewish children, and enslaved Africans. The plantation system in São Tomé was characterized by a unique labor dynamic that sharply contrasted with other Portuguese sugar mills. Rather than relying on enslaved people exclusively for rudimentary tasks, the São Tomé plantation system had them assume higher up positions such as overseas managements and other admin roles. Most of these people hailed from present-day nations like Benin, Angola, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and the Republic of the Congo, and they were forced to take on a wide variety of responsibilities. From the intricate stages of sugarcane cultivation and processing to specialized skills such as carpentry and stone masonry essential for constructing and maintaining the mills, enslaved Africans transformed almost the entire labor force of Sao Tome's sugar industry. This new evidence underscores Sao Tome's potential as the birthplace of the plantation slavery model. This framework would eventually be replicated and expanded in the New World, leading to the transatlantic slave trade's horrors. In this study led by M. Dorez Cruzy, a historical anthropologist from the University of Cologne in Germany, and their colleagues from the University of Sao Tome, they identified an estate on the northeast border of the island. Housed within a grand stone edifice that witnessed modifications and expansions over 4 centuries, the Praia Malayo sugar mill stands out not just for its architectural significance, but also for the unique insights it offers into the daily life and operations of the time. The 2-story building housed different functions on each floor, with the upper story serving as a living quarters for presumably the mill's overseers or owners, while the ground floor played host to the pivotal sugar boiling room, bearing silent witness to the arduous process that transformed raw cane into the prized sugar loaves. According to Cruz, sugar production in those times was markedly different from modern methods. The initial stages saw cane syrup being boiled in an expansive copper cauldron until it crystallized. This semi-solid mass was then transferred into conical ceramic molds, which were specially designed to facilitate the drainage of molasses, allowing the sugar to solidify into a hard cone. This iconic product was termed pão de açúcar in Portuguese, which translates directly to sugar loaf. While Cruz is hopeful that they'll be able to find more sugar mills or even the enslaved African quarters in the future, her attention is still focused primarily on this mill, saying, and I quote, "The building is in very bad shape, with cracks on the walls and some of the walls bulging, and it's also covered by vegetation," end quote. And at the moment, they are currently searching for funding to preserve the site. That's it for the archaeology news highlights this week, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for checking out the video. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, thank you so much. If you would consider hitting the sub button or even leaving a review, that would be amazing. Huge shout out to the people on screen for supporting the channel monetarily. I really appreciate you guys. You guys help make this possible, so thank you very much. Let me know if you enjoyed the content in the comments. You can check out the links in the description for my social media, where I post almost daily to Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts, as well as a link to my gaming YouTube channel and my Twitch, where I stream pretty much every day. Thanks for checking out the content, and I'll see you on the next one.